Cars and the race has settled down. Should be a ripper race. Buckle up, Australia. Jimmy Richards, watch the start he will get. Larry Perkins will light up the tyres of the Holden. Right behind him is Johnny Bow. Tony Longhurst racing now. Jimmy puts it down. 20 laps, 3.778 around this track, and this will be a beauty. Watch this. They get off the line nice and clean. Good start. Little bit of elbowing there from Colin Bond in the Red Sierra, but they all get through that first corner pretty well. Over the Ripple Strip, one car, no problem there. Jimmy Richards already gets out. Larry Perkins, he's really all over the back of Johnny Bow. Seaton already up to 10th place from the rear of the grid. Fantastic drive. We'll have to keep our eyes on the Seaton Falcon. He's told everyone, get out of my way, I'm coming through.
Well, Jimmy obviously gets a great start there in the forward drive car off the line, but I thought John Bow's start was a great start, and now Larry Perkins will make his life a misery for the next couple of laps.
Looking from the view of Larry Perkins, that's Johnny Bow. You can see in front of him. Round they come. That's a corner you have got, well, unfond memories of.
Yeah, it's not the best part of the circuit, I wouldn't think, does it? But these cars here now are going to be very, very hardly driven. As you can see, Jimmy just fired over the Ripple Strip, and now, as you can see, Longhurst coming up on them too.
There's the Falcon we talked about streaming through. Up into 10th place. There's been a big shunt down there coming out of that particular area of the circuit. Cars all over the place.
Looks like Dick Johnson involved in that then, Darrell.
Yeah, Dickie Johnson has gone off. He started from the rear of the grid as well. So there's action aplenty happening. We'll come back up front. Here's Larry Perkins, Tony Longhurst climbing all over the back of him in the Little Bimmer.
Well, I would have thought they were driving the cars pretty straight because it's a pretty long race around here and hard on tyres, but Larry's really firing the car around, and Tony's come right up behind him there now.
Jimmy Richards, you can see the gap from 1 to 2.
Jim's got a great first lap. He's done a great job because he's got enough gap there now that he can look after the car a little bit and let the other three guys behind torture each other.
These cars fantastic on this circuit. Now let's talk about this homologation problem, because the Falcon and the Seaton Falcon, there seems to be a problem there with cams, and Holden fired in a protest last night to say that the cars were supposed to be developed and their papers handed in by September 1, and that hasn't happened. They claim there's been further development since then, so bring us up to speed, Mark Skaife.
Well, basically what's happened there is the protest was fired in by the Holden racing team, and the Falcons of Dick Johnson and Glenn Seaton have been put to the back of the field because there's been changes in the car since they were homologated. So someone's got it wrong, and we'll see what happens now in the future.
Longhurst has got past Perkins with a fine drive there, slipping the Little Bimmer right inside the big Holden. Now also we've got to look at Paul Morris driving in the other Benson Hedges car, the brand new BMW in the sky blue colour, or the turquoise colour. That is the only car of its type anywhere in the world with a 2.5 litre engine. So now and Seaton's up to 13th place from the back of the grid. So, I mean, now everybody's saying if we're not homologated, why are they homologated at all?
Oh, that's exactly right. Larry Perkins has just come up the outside of Tony there now, but in regard to Paul Morris's car, I think that's the only E36 BMW in the world with a 4-cylinder engine in it, so someone's got a few problems.
Well, I'd say Cam's have got a few problems, and for goodness sake, every time we have a regulation change, some of this nonsense goes on. It's already cost Dick Johnson something like an additional $300,000. That's ridiculous.
Well, absolutely, but, you know, at the time when Dick built the car, there wasn't enough rules to be able to build a car, and, you know, he probably paid the penalty for it.
OK, back to the racing. Forget the politics and the nonsense. Jimmy Richards in the Nissan GTR puts a smile on Mark Skaife's face beside me. Johnny Bow comes past. The little BMW now, the Benson Hedges car of Tony Longhurst, sitting in 3rd place. Larry Perkins has been bumped back. Have a look at the big Falcon. He started from the back of the grid. Glenn Seaton, as I said at the top of the race, he told the field, get out of my way. I want to catch the leading group. And so far, he is screaming.
Glenn's done a good job because in the first few laps of practice here on Thursday, you know, he was one of the fastest cars straight away. He's done a lot of testing lately, and the car looks very, very good.
Seaton now in 10th. Fantastic stuff from Seaton. Can he catch him? He's got plenty of laps to do it in.
Well, he has, but, you know, I think obviously the leaders are driving the car very straight there, and you can see Jimmy's driving the car very smooth, but I think over this sort of distance, the Tony Longhurst car is probably the dark horse.
So Jimmy Richards in the Nissan GTR out in front. Johnny Bow in the Shell Sierra, the last time out for that car. Then's Longhurst. Here's now Perkins. Now the Holden's coming in Mazira, and we can see the Falcon in the background. The dark blue car with a yellow and red stripe going past now. What a drive from Glenn Seaton. He's cooking them up here.
There's a good dice on there between Bond, one of the HRT cars, and Brock, so the three of them come up that short Jones straight there together.
Brock qualified as far back this time round as 8th place. He was actually 9th on the grid, but got bumped up because of the problem of the cars starting from the rear of the grid. He certainly hasn't got the Holden developed as well as the dealer cars.
He started very late because just prior to Bathurst he was still building the car, and, you know, probably they've done a very good job for the amount of time they've had. At Calder the other day, we were out there, and his car was as quick as Glenn Seaton. So, you know, at the sort of tracks like that, I think that they still go pretty good. What
about you? Looking forward to driving a big Holden next year?
Well, you know, it's something different, and, you know, obviously it's sad to see the Nissans go, but there's a fair bit of dicing on him, eh?
Look at Seaton. Seaton now up in behind Brock. This has been one of the great drives from Seaton. This is where the action is. Seaton now hounds up the 05, the famous 05. There's the new Falcon. That's the new breed touring car that we'll see next year from Ford.
You watch there, Brock just covered Glenn a little bit, and I think, you know, he's in 8th spot, so he's done a good job. But what happens now is these guys in front are harder to pass than the blokes he's passed so far, so these guys aren't going to be so easy.
That's Colin Bond in behind him in the Caltex Red Sierra. But what a drive from Seaton. He said this morning, get out of my way, I'm coming through. He was really fired up and annoyed about Camps bumping him back after all the hard work in practice and qualifying. He put the car up on the grid and had to start from the rear. Seaton is now 8th, as we said, in behind Brock. Now he darts out. Has he got the legs on the big Holden? No, sir.
Well, you can see there, Glenn's being very aggressive about it, but what he's doing more than anything is he's probably upsetting Brocky a little bit by just opening up the gaps and putting the car into the holes all the time. At the moment, he hasn't really found a hole to put the car in, but he's trying to force a way past just right now.
Comes up beside Brock under brakes. Brock holding the line. Seaton coming inside. He'll get him. Seaton up into 7th. Great drive. Brock comes back. Seaton goes wide.
Well, Glenn went in a bit deep and obviously paid the penalty for it, but, you know, that's a very difficult position to pass there.
Glenn Seaton driving the race of his life here in Adelaide in the big brand new V8 Falcon, the car that Alan Jones is very excited about driving next year.
As you can see, like, Glenn's actually catching Peter reasonably easily, but, you know, as I said, they're going to be harder to pass now, and Brock was already deep enough under brakes before Glenn went up the inside of him. As you can see, he's running wide there now, out over the ripple strip and into the loose stuff. He did a good job to hang on to that then coming back onto the track.
So Peter Brock now, all he can see is blue. That's all he can see in the back of his rear view mirror. Jimmy Richards doing it fine out the front, but this is where the action is, with Glenn Seaton doing everything he can to get round him. From Victoria, of course, he first went to motor racing at Bathurst in 1965. And I mean, you had a lot to do with Glenn Seaton's career in those days too, because you were the two young babes.
Yeah, well, Glenn and I both drove for Nissan together, you know, probably 4 or 5 years ago, and, you know, we're good mates, and, you know, obviously it's good to see him going so well now.
3rd in last year's 20-lap race, 2nd in last year's 10-lap race. So we watch Larry Perkins thundering around here at Adelaide. We'll be back shortly. Stay with us, Australia. This is a ripper. Richards in the Nissan GTR doing a fantastic job. Glenn Seaton off. The Falcon's gone into the wall. Oh, what a shame. What a drive from Seaton. He started from the rear of the grid and got up to 8th place.
That's really bad luck for Glenn, because the car has come up through the field fantastically. He's driven the car great, and it's had a big understeer there, and obviously looked like, you know, maybe had a brake problem or a throttle jam or something, because the car went straight in. Didn't look like turning.
Oh, rotten luck for Seaton, as you see Jimmy Richards going past him. Seaton got out of the car. The development, the work, the testing that's gone into that car. He doesn't want to go to New Zealand next month for the Wellington 500 to redevelop his new 2 cars, and that happens now. Wow, that's the last thing he wanted.
Yeah, as I said, that's bad luck. You know, that's the game we're in, and obviously this circuit's not very forgiving in that respect either.
Okay, let's have a look, because Larry Perkins now has got the wick turned up. He's gone past Tony Longhurst, and Longhurst has been all over the back of Johnny Bow right through this race. Look at Larry Perkins in the older model car, throwing it around, lifting wheels up, but that's the reason why the official car, the pace car out on the track, obviously Seaton's car's in a bad position.
Yeah, Tony was really giving John Bow a bad time, and you can see the back of the car of Bowie's has got the bumper bar hanging off it, so they've had their season ongoing duel. And Larry, I think, has just nailed Longhurst because of a little mistake.
This is
Here's Glenn,
going
big
on.
understeer. It's, you know, as I said, something's really probably happened to the car there, because it hasn't even looked like changing direction. It's hit the fence without an ounce of change of direction.
Gee whiz, he hit hard, didn't he?
Well, you'd probably find you're going a bit quicker there than you think, really,